Welcome back to the Milwaukee Theater and the Republican presidential debate. Let's get right back to our questions. Dr. Carson, to you. You recently railed against the double standard in the media, sir, that seems obsessed with inconsistencies and potential exaggerations in your life story, but looked the other way when it came to then Senator Barack Obama's. Still, as a candidate whose brand has always been trust, are you worried your campaign, which you've always said, sir, is bigger than you, is now being hurt by you?
Well, first of all, thank you for not asking me what I said in the 10th grade. I appreciate that.
But I'll just forget that follow-up there.
The fact of the matter is, you know, what we should vet all candidates. I have no problem with being vetted. What I do have a problem with is being lied about and then putting that out there as truth. And I don't even mind that so much if they do it with everybody, like people on the other side. But, you know, when I look at somebody like Hillary Clinton, who sits there and tells her daughter and a government official that, no, this was a terrorist attack, and then tells everybody else that it was a video. Where I came from, they call that a lie. And I think that's very different from, you know, somebody misinterpreting when I said that I was offered a scholarship to West Point. That's the words that they used. But I've had many people come and say the same thing to me. That's what people do in those situations. We have to start treating people the same and finding out what people really think and what they're made of. And people who know me know that I'm an honest person.
Thank you, Dr. Carson.
Mr. Trump, a federal appeals court just dealt a blow to the Obama administration's plan to prevent the deportation of 5 million people living in this country illegally. The White House is appealing to the Supreme Court. At heart of this issue is the effect that illegal immigrants are having on our economy. What will you do about it?
I was so happy yesterday when I saw that decision come down. That was an unbelievable decision, and we don't have enough of those decisions coming down. He of the executive order, because nobody wants to listen to him, including the Democrats. So he just goes around signing executive orders. That was a great day. And frankly, we have to stop illegal immigration. It's hurting us economically. It's hurting us from every standpoint. It's causing tremendous difficulty with respect to drugs and what that does to many of our inner cities in particular. And it really was such an unbelievable moment because the courts have not been ruling in our favor. And it was a 2-to-1 decision, and it was a terrific thing that happened. And I will tell you, we are a country of laws. We need borders. We will have a wall. The wall will be built. The wall will be successful. And if you think walls don't work, all you have to do is ask Israel. The wall works, believe me, properly done. Believe me.
Can you just send 5 million people back with no effect on the economy?
You're going to have to bring people. You're going to have to send people out. Look,
so
we're
what
a country.
will you do?
Maria, we're a country of laws. We either have a country or we don't have a country. We are a country of laws. Going to have to go out, and they'll come back, but they're going to have to go out, and hopefully they get back. But we have no choice if we're going to run our country properly and if we're going to be a country.
Thank you, sir.
Maria, can we comment on that?
Senator Rubio.
Can we comment on that?
Yeah, one quick comment. Yes, sir.
Well, look, in 1986, Ronald Reagan basically said the people who were here, if they were law-abiding, could stay. What didn't happen is we didn't build the walls effectively, and we didn't control the border. We need to. We need to control our border just like people have to control who goes in and out of their house. But if people think that we are going to ship 11 million people who are law-abiding, who are in this country, and somehow pick them up at their house and ship them out of Mexico, to Mexico. Think about the families. Think about the children. So, you know, the answer really is, if they've been law-abiding, they pay a penalty, they get to stay, we protect the wall, anybody else comes over, they go back. But for the 11 million people, come on, folks, we all know you can't pick them up and ship them back across the border. It's a silly argument. It's not an adult argument. It makes no sense.
All I can say is you're lucky in Ohio that you struck oil. That's for one thing. Let me just tell you that Dwight Eisenhower, good president, great president, people liked him. I like Ike, right? The expression, I like Ike. Moved 1.5 million illegal immigrants out of this country. Moved them just beyond the border, they came back. Moved them again beyond the border, they came back. Didn't like it. Moved them way south, they never came back. Dwight Eisenhower. You don't get nicer, you don't get friendlier. They moved 1.5 million people out. We have no choice. We have no choice.
Well, he just mentioned my name.
Governor Bush.
Gerald, it was
what happened to my back?
You're not going to have my back. I'm going to have my back. Let me say a couple things here. First of all, we have grown.
You should let Jeb speak.
We have grown.
No, it's unfair.
In the state of Ohio.
Governor.
Hold on. In the state of Ohio, we have grown 347,000 jobs. Our unemployment is half of what it was. Our fracking industry, energy industry, may have contributed 20,000, but if Mr. Trump understood that the real jobs come in the downstream, not in the upstream, but in the downstream, and that's where we're going to get our jobs. But Ohio is diversified, and false little things, sir, they really don't work when it comes to the truth. So the fact is, all I'm suggesting, we can't ship 11 million people out of this country. Children would be terrified, and it will not work.
Thank you. Mr. Trump, you've had a good. Let me just.
Built an unbelievable company worth billions and billions of dollars. I don't have to hear from this man. Believe me. I don't have to hear from him.
Mr. Trump, you yourself said let Governor Bush speak. Governor Bush.
Thank you, Donald, for allowing me to speak at the debate. That's really nice of you. Really appreciate that. What a generous man you are. 12 million illegal immigrants, to send them back, 500,000 a month, is just not possible. And it's not embracing American values. And it would tear communities apart. And it would send a signal that we're not the kind of country that I know America is. And even having this conversation sends a powerful signal. They're doing high fives in the Clinton campaign right now when they hear this. That's the problem with this. We have to win the presidency. And the way you win the presidency is to have practical plans. Lay them out there. What we need to do is allow people to earn legal status where they pay a fine, where they work, where they don't commit crimes, where they learn English, and over an extended period of time, they earn legal status. That's the path, a proper path to make this work.
Senator Rubio. Senator.
We have millions of people right now online trying to come into this country. Very, very unfair to the people that want to come into our country legally. They've gone through the process. They're online. They're waiting. Very, very unfair to them. That I can tell you.
Senator Rubio. Senator Rubio. Let me take you to a question that I think gets at the root of a lot of the anxiety that people have in this country. The economy is undergoing a transformation through information technology. And Americans are anxious that the new economy isn't producing higher-paying jobs. Many are concerned that the new wealth seems to be going mainly to innovators and investors. Meanwhile, with factories run by robots and shopping done increasingly on smartphones, many traditional jobs are just going away. How do you reassure American workers that their jobs are not being steadily replaced by machines?
That's an excellent question, because what we are going through in this country is not simply an economic downturn. We are living through a massive economic transformation. I mean, this economy is nothing like what it was like 5 years ago, not to mention 15 or 20 years ago. And it isn't just a different economy, it's changing faster than ever. You know, it took the telephone 75 years to reach 100 million users. It took Candy Crush 1 year to reach 100 million users. So the world is changing faster than ever, and it is disruptive. number one, we are in a global competition now, and several of the candidates have said that. There are now dozens of developed economies on this planet that we have to compete with, and we lose that competition because we have the highest business tax rate in the industrialized world, because we have regulations that continue to grow by the billions every single week, because we have a crazy healthcare law that discourages companies from hiring people, but because we're not fully utilizing our energy resources, that if we did, it would bring back all kinds of growth, especially in manufacturing, and because we have an outdated higher education system. Our higher education system is completely outdated. It is too expensive, too hard to access, and it doesn't teach 21st century skills. If we do what needs to be done, tax reform, regulatory reform, fully utilize our energy resources, repeal and replace Obamacare, and modernize higher education, then we can grasp the potential and the promise of this new economy. And we won't just save the American dream, we will expand it to reach more people and change more lives than ever before. And then truly, this new century can be a new American century. Thank you.
Senator Cruz, entitlements. You've argued for raising the retirement age and reducing benefits for future retirees. But reducing any sort of benefits for the elderly has always been notoriously hard to do politically. When Speaker Paul Ryan proposed replacing traditional Medicare with federally funded private plans a few years ago, a Liberal group responded with a commercial that featured a granny being pushed off a cliff. What's going to be different this time?
Well, my mom is here, so I don't think we should be pushing any grannies off cliffs. And you misstated what I've said on entitlement reform. What I've said is for seniors, we should make no changes whatsoever. For younger workers, we should gradually raise the retirement age. We should have benefits grow more slowly, and we should allow them to keep a portion of their taxes in a personal account that they control and can pass on to their kids.
I said for future retirees, as you said.
Now, I want to go back to the discussion we had a minute ago because, you know, what was said was right. The Democrats are laughing. Because if Republicans join Democrats as the party of amnesty, we will lose. And, you know, I understand that when the mainstream media covers immigration, it doesn't often see it as an economic issue. But I can tell you for millions of Americans at home watching this, it is a very personal economic issue. And I will say the politics of it would be very, very different if a bunch of lawyers or bankers were crossing the Rio Grande. Or if a bunch of people with journalism degrees were coming over and driving down the wages in the press. Then we would see stories about the economic calamity that is befalling our nation. And I will say, for those of us who believe people ought to come to this country legally and we should enforce the law, we're tired of being told it's anti-immigrant. It's offensive. I am the son of an immigrant who came legally from Cuba to seek the American dream. And we can embrace legal immigrations while believing in the rule of law. And I would note, try going illegally to another country. Try going to China or Japan. Try going to Mexico. See what they do. Every sovereign nation secures its borders, and it is not compassionate to say we're not going to enforce the laws and we're going to drive down the wages for millions of hardworking men and women. That is abandoning the working man. Thank you.
We go back to Facebook. Dwayne Wesley Cato asks on Facebook, how do we get rid of regulations choking our businesses? Ms. Fiorina, specifically under the President's Affordable Care Act, employers with 50 or more employees are required to offer health insurance or be fined. Many are opting to pay the fine. Others are cutting back employee hours to duck the law altogether. What specific ways will you alleviate the pressure on small business?
Well, first, Obamacare has to be repealed because it's failing. It's failing the very people it was intended to help, but also it is crony capitalism at its worst. Who helped write this bill? drug companies, insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, and every single one of those kinds of companies are bulking up to deal with big government. See, that's what happens. As government gets bigger and bigger, and it has been for 50 years under Republicans and Democrats alike, then businesses have to bulk up to deal with big government. So we have to repeal it. It's tens of thousands of pages long. No one can possibly understand it except the big companies, the lawyers, the accountants, the lobbyists that they hire to protect their interests. Then we have to give back to states the responsibility to manage a high-risk pool. We need to try the one thing in health insurance we've never tried. Health insurance has always been a cozy little game between regulators and health insurance companies. We need to try the free market where people actually have to compete. And we ought to have the government ensure that you must, and I don't use that term often, the government ought to do something, that every healthcare provider ought to publish its costs, its prices, its outcomes, because as patients, we don't know what we're buying. Now, let me just say, I know more about innovation and entrepreneurship than anyone on this panel because I have led innovative businesses in the most highly competitive industry in the world for decades. The truth is, the secret sauce of America is innovation and entrepreneurship. It is why we must cut our government down to size and hold it accountable. It's why we have to take our government back, because innovation and entrepreneurship is crushed by the crushing load of a 73,000-page tax code. It is crushed by a regulatory thicket that is so vast we don't even know what's in it anymore. It is crushed as well by government bureaucrats who don't do their jobs very well and who are not held accountable, which is why I've said we've got to take our government back, and to do that, we have to know where every dollar is being spent and be able to move any dollar. We have to hack through this regulatory thicket, repeal so much, but also know what's in that regulatory thicket. We don't even know what regulations have been passed. Third, we need to build a meritocracy, as Scott Walker, by the way, is trying now to do in Wisconsin. And finally, we need to get to a 3-page tax code, and yes, that plan exists.
Just to be clear, you want to repeal Obamacare, but what's the alternative?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Just to be clear, you said you would repeal Obamacare,
Absolutely.
But what is the alternative? And how does that help small business?
We need to give. The alternative is to allow states to manage high-risk pools for those who really need help. Look, I'm a cancer survivor. Okay? I understand that you cannot have someone who's battled cancer just become known as a pre-existing condition. I understand that you cannot allow families to go bankrupt if they truly need help. But I also understand that Obamacare isn't helping anyone. We're throwing more and more people into Medicaid, and fewer doctors are taking those payments. The point is, Obamacare is crushing small businesses. It is not helping the families it was intended to help. So let us allow states to manage high-risk pools. Let us try the one thing in health insurance we've never tried, the free market. Let us ensure that as patients and customers, we have the information to shop wisely for our health care.
All right. Thank you all very much. We're going to take a break here. Coming up, a big issue many Americans are facing, taxes. The Republican presidential debate continues now live from Milwaukee.